So we explore a lot more of the deep underwater city that is Elmina in Fairy Tale 100-Year Quest. Although some really weird things was happening in this chapter, mainly for the fact that the mystery with Toka is just getting weirder and weirder the more that we just keep looking at this girl. There is some stuff going on with the water god, Lothia. Not to mention, like, this entire, like, city and, like, its entire inhabitants, they're just weird. There's no other way to describe that. Elmina is just a weird just place to even be. So let's just get down and just talk about that, because they arrive at the hotel and like, why is this place all bunged up and it looks like a pile of shit? And then they just arrive in this hotel and there's just the fish on the floor. And it's like, what the hell is going on here? And it's like, let's just try and talk to this guy, and drags him down, and then it turns into a dude, and it's just like, oh hi, welcome to the hotel. And it's like, what the hell is with you? And he's like, I might have just transformed into a fish, don't worry about it, but don't worry, I've got a date, you can be here, like, just put all your stuff there, don't worry about it, but you must drink the welcome drink in your rooms. You can't survive here as humans, no way, you have to drink the welcome drink. And it's like, what is wrong with this place? Like, what is generally wrong with this inhabitants? And they get there, they get to this room, and they're like, man, I'm just tired, and it's just like, I wonder what kind of magic that dude was doing. Is that something like related to like what we're seeing with, like, you know, Mira? Is that like some takeover kind of magic? And they're like, no, it's the room's free, which isn't suspicious at all. And then they look at the potion with a giant skull on it. Yeah, that doesn't look good. And it's like, should we really drink this? Then when it comes to nighttime, Gray wakes up and the room is complete, like, just everything is submerged underwater. And he's like, what is going on? Like, this is bad. And like that, my breath is like, I'm breathing fine. Same thing with everyone else, where he just goes out and looks. He's like, what's going on here? And he's like, the entire city is underwater. And Gray, Lucy, Wendy, Urza, they're all just like goofing around, like, look at this place, this is great, like that, it's underwater. And it's just like, you're exploring this, like, this is clearly something, this is like, makes more sense than like why the water dragon god is here specifically, because this is clearly is part of his power. Like, he can just, if the fact of the matter is, like, he can just submerge an entire place, like an entire city, just like this, and it makes you think, like, how does that work compared to, like, with the continent that they were walking on? Is it just like a spear that he just submerges, like, the entire city in? I'm kind of very curious about, like, how exactly his magic works. Is it just the magical tide just comes in and just blows us all away? But it's like, they talk about it when it's like, they talk about the receptionist, and he, like, later introduced himself as, like, Kashima, and he's just like, what, like, he's talking, is like, what's going on with the city? And it's like, oh, nothing special, it's just full tide, don't worry about it. And it's just like, this town was for fish, and so this, its real appearance and all that, it's like, you know, generally and all that, is like, this is more meant for, like, sea life than it is for, like, other humans. But we do get them from time to time going around, like, on there, and it's like, one thing that then really kind of triggered people, especially this fish and all that, when he was talking about it, it was just like, Gray starts sitting down, and he actually starts talking to him, and he's like, so hey, look, this is weird, but we're looking for clues regarding the water dragon god. Do you know anything about this? And he then starts losing his mind, and he's screaming, and he's like, we will not allow you to lay any finger on our water god, like, not whatsoever. And then this like, shark that Urza was with, they started attacking her, Lucy, and, like, Wendy started getting attacked by, like, some fish, start taking the bride. I'm like, okay, yeah, there we go, more edgy stuff on there. And it's just like, look, don't lay a hand on them, Natsu, because they could just be, like, you know, at the end of the day, it's just like, there's something weird's going on right now, and he's just like, no, we won't let you go, and all that. They're the same as the humans from last time, enemies to the Lord War God. And it's just like, what? So there is clearly this big thing going on where it's like, what happened to Merce before, where it's like, so did last time that humans tried to come here, they abused maybe his gift, and that might explain what's going on with these, like, these dragons, or is that they probably trusted humans before and looked what happened. I mean, we saw what happened where it's like, we gave Athnologia dragon slaying ability, and look how many they killed his kind. So maybe that's one of the reasons why they might be still bitter, is about their kind being taken. It's like, why act now? Like, why act now when, like, Athnologia is gone? Is it like, was you generally that intimidated by his power, and now you're like, oh, we can actually do it? Because they've been clearly described as that, but from at least what we saw from him, from the first little panel that we saw of the guy as he was just, like, standing there with, like, either his servant, they were describing it where it's just like, he was just very lackadaisical, and he was just like, he kind of seems kind of a little bit out there and not really angry, but kind of just more just either depressed or just like, he just doesn't care. Like, things to him just don't amuse him anymore. He's like, I couldn't really give a rat's ass about what anyone thinks. But then this chapter goes back to Magnolia, and then where I was like, oh, we actually thought that, like, Gargiel and Judea were leaving. That was, like, kind of the insinuation, but it was more that they were going around Magnolia to explore things about Toka, to try and have stuff, and they're like, so Toka, what can you do? And it's like, oh, I use water, and like Judea starts getting upset because she's copying Judea now because she's a fangirl, and it's the same thing with Judea, and it's like, oh, like, you're the same person chasing after that sloppy boy and all that, how's that? He's like, what did you just call Grey? And then the chapter ends in a weird way where it's like, by the way, she has a tail. So is she like some weird exceed where, like, I mean, because we've had situations like Sharla, like we've had her where she is clearly being able to transform herself with her magic into a human, and it's like, is it the same way around, whereas like she's just an exceed, or what's going on? Is she bullshitting about her abilities? And it's like, what's going on with the entire tail scenario? Like, and how much she's got, because they described as well, like, she was clearly, she knows Bria, she's associated with her, and like, then again, she's right next to Lysana right there, so that could be a whole thing where it's like, Gargiel and Judy are going to jump at the conclusion. It's like, oh no, Lysana did something. This, I will definitely say, this is the weakest chapter we've had so far. There were like, so much, it's like, what's going on in the city. It was like more saying up with about like the whole little city of Elmina, like, and then as well we're continuing the investigation with Julia and Gargiel's side, but not so much like considering that the last like couple of chapters we've been finding out a lot of information about like about the quest, about what's going on, and this one is like more just finding out a little bit more what's going on with the city and some of its inhabitants, and like this clearly, like when we look at Elmina, like originally it is by the coast, it is just straight up just like a gorgeous like kind of beach sort of seaside city, and then like somehow is caught up in this giant tide that just drowns the entire like water, and we don't know if that's like a spear, we don't know what's going on with that, but we do see a bunch of ships and stuff running around on this place, and overall like this is like it was a weird weird chapter to say the least, and I'm more curious about next week when it's like, are we going to actually start like seeing the progression between Toka and like what's going on her side, because it's interesting that there are two stories right now, and I like it was kind of insinuating that like maybe Gargiel and Judy were going to chase after like Natsu's gang with how they were kind of setting up with like Levy as well, but no, that doesn't seem to be the case. So like so far the manga seems to be having two plots going on at the moment, and whether or not we're going to be seeing the one side with Natsu's gang dealing with these dragons, and then let's deal with the side, like, you know, with the B team, and they're going to be having their own personal stuff going on there. I think that's the most interesting part so far of like this entire arc, where it's like, okay, let's see what that, because normally it's a whole big group of them normally together, or Fairy Tail is, like, a lot of the time how Fairy Tail was normally done was like, apart from Elastion Sace, where it was like, that's just the main Fairy Tail team, you know, Natsu, Grey, Ursa, Lucy, like, on there, and then also they joined up with, like, Wendy and stuff like that. Like, and then every kind of arc since then, like Tenojima was the entirety of them, it was everyone. Same thing, like, with what we had, like, previously as well, Grand Magic Games, it was all the Fairy Tail members. Same thing, like, say, with Tartarus. Tartarus had, like, pretty much everyone getting involved in that one, where it was a full-out scale war. Same thing with the, like with the final like arc and everything. Avatar, maybe not, because like that was them, a lot of them like reuniting and everything, but again, like this is the first time in a very long while since a lot of those characters have been kind of separated. So it makes it a little bit interesting to say, it's like we haven't got the entirety of the full gang and the full guild at the disposal here. So curious to see where that goes, but I will definitely say this is the weakest chapter so far. It was fine, but I wasn't like vastly like engaged with this chapter, and I'm hoping for a little bit more substance next week. But let me know what you guys think. What do you think about this weird like Elmina City and like the whole war god? Like, what is just going on like at the moment on there with this like first arc for this new series? But that is all for me. Thanks always for watching, and I'll see you guys though next time.